Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. The Finance Minister addressed all the key constituencies in his interim budget speech on Friday. From farmers to the middle class, there is something in the budget for everyone. The Prime Minister called it an all-encompassing budget for New India. By not touching the corporate tax rate and not hiking taxes for the uber rich, the Finance Minister also ensured this key group of donors is not alienated. The first big takeaway is the benefit to the farmers. Also, in a move to bring the unorganized workers in the mainstream, the government has started a monthly pension of 3,000 rupees for workers in the sector. This is the second big takeaway. The Finance Minister increased the minimum income tax limit from 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh rupees per annum. Doubling the limit would result in 12,500 rupees saving per annum for the salaried class. But this limit is applicable only for those who have a salary of 5 lakh or below, as the exemption is in the form of a rebate. This is the third takeaway. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the three big takeaways from the interim budget. Joining me on the program today are Dr. P. Pulla Rao, economist; Yatish Rajawat, editor-in-chief, Daily News and Analysis; and Manu Seth, Director, CMAI and former CEO, HTC. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Dr. Pulla Rao, I'd like to begin the program with you. And for me, personally, the biggest takeaway of this interim budget is what was announced for the unorganized sector, because this is a sector that has been neglected over the years, and finally we have something for them.
No, there's no doubt. It's a recognition of the contribution of the unorganized sector to the Indian economy, and it's also a recognition that they've been totally ignored because they are not in the formal economy. There is a sanctity about the formal economy as opposed to the informal economy. And sadly to say, we are very much behind what many South American countries have done. They have monetized the wealth of the informal economy by the mere fact of monetizing their profession. If he is a hawker, what's his value? What's his business doing? What's his business? So we have a long way to go. And as you have said, the government has finally recognized that these are people who are contributing immensely to the country and that we should take care of them, and they should have a pension. At the age of 60, they have a right to retire peacefully with dignity. I agree with you that only thing is it has to be implemented properly. It requires vast supervision. Otherwise, it will be one of those schemes which has a beautiful, auspicious beginning, but ends up not being implemented. It's for the government to take care of those glitches and see that they really benefit. You know, it's a vast thing. I believe 10, 20, 30 crore people will be involved as beneficiaries. So it's for the government now to lay that machinery in place to take care of the biggest forgotten section in India.
Right. So, Yatish Rajawat, in the interim budget speech, the Finance Minister said half of India's GDP comes from the sweat and toil of 42 crore workers in the unorganized sector, working as street vendors, rickshaw pullers, and so on and so forth. So, that having been said, what is the importance and the contribution of the unorganized sector and the informal sector really on India's economy?
So, there are three parts of it, Frank. The unorganized sector, as you know, is the largest contributor to employment. And and it's also the largest growth where the growth is happening. Unfortunately, this sector is also the sector which is not covered by any statistical data or any metrics, so to say. So, there are two things which happens once this pension scheme gets implemented. One, these informal sector people, if they are educated and they know about the scheme, they will become part of a formal sector in a way. They will be enumerated and counted somewhere, which would mean that once they start depositing that 100 rupees per month, they will open a bank account, they will start saving something. And once they start saving, then the government will also be able to realize that what is it that they are earning, what is it that they need. So, it is more than just the pension scheme, I would believe. I think there is a fair bit of thought which is going behind this, which would be in terms of bringing these unorganized informal labor into the system of recognition, so to say, because once it's not only the income which will come to being, their identity and their location will also be clear, because they will submit their Aadhaar card, they will tell that geographically this is the place I am located. They will also tell the next of kin, they will tell the dependents, because the pension, there will be a benefit accruing to the next of kin in case of any death or something like that. So, this is part of formalization of the economy, and this is a crucial step from that point of view. It also has another bearing, which is on the elections, because clearly this is a segment of the population that has in the past been ignored or assumed that it will vote with the benefit, but now, especially in the urban sector, there are very large populations, and they are geographically located in the slums or in the lower end of the housing segment. So, they will, now that they are impaneled, they are part of the pension scheme, the government can now target them for other schemes, other benefits that has traditionally been given only to the rural poor.
And this is where Digital India will come in, isn't it?
So that is actually the process, and in all these three schemes, even in the farmer scheme, see, the only reason
we'll get to the farmer scheme next.
Yeah, but the only way they're getting it, and they're saying that we'll give it to them, is because some of those farmers, or a large proportion of those farmers, are now part of the Jan Dhan account scheme. They have submitted their Aadhaar, and their mobile numbers also have been tagged along with it. So their identity and their location and their banking status has been established.
Right.
So now you can do more.
Sure. Manu said that's the problem at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, there aren't any numbers, there isn't any data, any figures really to pinpoint and tell us, what the unorganized sector really contributes, who comprises of the unorganized sector. This is where Digital India comes. How important is it to really identify who these people are so that they can receive the benefits of a scheme like the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan is what they're calling it. How will this scheme really help, and what more needs to be done?
See, I think you really highlighted the three key takeaways. It's very, very important and a key step towards Digital India, which is called as a transformation. And so we call it's like a sweet packaging coming from the new India, where people have to be connected, and where we are trying to connect all their accounts, people what they are earning, bringing benefits to the unorganized sectors from the farmers' perspective, trying to get all the benefits for them. And I think, as we say, India being an agricultural economy, there is a lot that has been done for this community. The idea is to uplift them and then to take them to an upper market segment where they can get benefits for what all efforts they are doing. So as a step to your point, it will all be seen over the period of time, and all that needs to be executed when we are talking about that multiple villages will get digitized, everything will become a Digital India. So all these are the steps towards the new India which will be seen over the period of time. But it's very, very important for them to be connected, because we are connecting them with the schemes, we are connecting them with the benefits. Government is showing them the great benefits, that how can they make money on their produce, so that they feel confident, they can stand tall, they can stand collectively in the same society. Yes, there are different segments in the society, but that's the segment which is really driving the economy to the core, and which gives boost to the exports and the other benefits. So to your point, there are a lot of things which will fall in place in terms of connecting them, putting them onto a digital platform, linking their benefits, knowing their identity, giving them the recognition and the platform on the national level also. That brings the status of equality.
Right. Moving on now to the next big takeaway, that is, of course, the agri sector and for the farmers. This was something which we expected. We expected that the farmers are going to get a lot from this particular budget, and the government has delivered really. Dr. Pullarao, your thoughts on PM Kisan?
You see, we just thought a few days ago, the expectations have been raised so high, and usually budgets have a letdown. Usually people get disappointed that something didn't take place. So fortunately for the government, it has met the expectations that were raised. It was literally a public secret that something of this sort was going to be done for the farmers. And I had a feeling that sometimes this doesn't happen. But for Mr. Goyal and the government, it's a great success that this is a trailblazer. This has never been done before. You see, a lot of people during the course of the day, my interactions and listening to other people, they say it's only 6,000, it's only this much. But don't forget, it's 12 crore people in the initial stage. That is 75,000 crores, billions and billions of dollars, first time cash going to someone's hand. It creates immense liquidity. And the second consequence of this is, now every state government is going to fall into this scheme. I think Odisha has already started implementing it. Andhra has announced it. Telangana was a forerunner. Every government now, believe me, they will announce this scheme in some form or other. So you add this 75,000 crores plus maybe another 75,000 crores from each state. You see, it costs 10,000 crores, I think, in Telangana. So on this ratio, this is going to be of some benefit, may not be enough. Eventually, the future finance ministers will have to see how to pare down other wasteful schemes and finally hand over money.
That having been said, Dr. Pullarao, what happens to our fisc then?
Fiscal, you see, one more thing I want to tell you, there is no sanctimony, there is no line drawn on the earth, there is no Lakshman Rekha that you can't do this. You are going towards that. You are proceeding towards that. And let it be 2 months late, 3 months late, you are proceeding towards that. And don't forget, there was also demands that RBI increase liquidity, and RBI did not do so. So this is one way of meeting those challenges. Plus, the task is so important. There is agrarian distress. It's literally a very strife-torn economy. You got to do some things. As the other day we discussed, you know, budget is not for 1 year and you forget the year. You have to constantly go on improvising. And this is an act of improvisation to meet the thing. It's challenging, it's novel, lot will be written about it, but you have to start somewhere. Farmers never got any benefit as a professional group.
Right.
Therefore,
right.
this is a very challenging thing which government has taken up.
Sure. You know, Yatish, the finance minister has proposed an outlay of 75,000 crore rupees for PM Kisan for the for FY 1920 and also providing 20,000 crores in the revised estimates for 2018-19.
Yeah.
So where are the funds going to come from?
So, you know, he's already revised the budgetary estimate for 2018-19 by 20,000 crores. That means he's already allocated 20,000 crore, and that is the fiscal deficit target has gone up from 3.2% to 3.3%. It's this additional 20,000 crore which is part of the current year. Okay, another 55,000 crore that he will have to 55,000 crore that he will have to pay next year, for the next year, because this is it's going to be paid in 3 tranches every 4 months. So the first tranche will come in people's hand before March 31st, 2019. Now, Mr. Goel said in his speech that we have our fiscal deficit target has crossed the limit because we allocated 20,000 crore, and again next year, because this is a completely new scheme and we are allocating another 75,000 crore for it, so it will go up again by another 0.1%. So I mean that 0.1% I think is bearable. It's not something of undue concern, and I think the trajectory is right in the sense that, you know, we are keeping the fiscal deficit in control. We are not being too liberal with it in terms of spending unnecessary. This was something that was needed, as Professor just pointed out. And you see, the important thing is, which is the other place that you have such a scheme? You know, the only state that I could find which had a similar scheme, and again the magic number of 2,000, was Alaska. Alaska gives $2,000, which is to all citizens in Alaska, because, and this money is paid out of the earnings that Alaska gets from oil. So because the oil is seen as a community resource and it's seen as owned by the people of the state, in return for them giving oil to the rest of the country, the oil companies in Alaska pay every citizen of Alaska $2,000. So where is this money going to come from? I saw 2 or 3 things which in the social subsidy schemes itself. Prime Minister Awas Yojana had a minor reduction. The direct benefit transfer has gone up from something like I think 19,000 crores to 24 or 25,000 crores. all the other social subsidy schemes have more or less maintained at what they were. Like for instance, the food subsidy, it's gone up partially by 1,000 odd crores from 1,14,000 odd crores to 1,15,000 odd crores.
Right.
So he's kept all the other schemes which were directly targeting which were for the farmers, but which were indirect in nature, and he's instead of increasing them with the revenue inflow, he has pushed the increase or the upside of the growth to this particular scheme.
Right.
So this then becomes the second largest scheme after the food subsidy.
Yes. Right. Right. Dr. Pullarao, you wanted to weigh in? Yeah. Quickly so that I can. Yeah.
Norway, which also has a sovereign wealth fund of $1 trillion nearly.
Right.
We don't do that, you know. All our telecom thing, we just
Sure,
sold
sure.
it and washed.
Sure. So, Manu, is this the answer really to the agrarian distress that we are facing?
No, this may not be the answer, but yes, it will bring some sort of a comfort and largely will depend on the execution to it. When we are talking about benefits to the farmer community, there will be a lot of benefits which we should not miss is on the MSME sector. There are a lot of grants that are being given. They are being given an opportunities to submit on their GST. Certain things might not be a financial implication, but it gives you a lot of relief in terms of the execution of your work. Then they are given a lot of rebates in terms of their interest rates on the loans or on the other subsidies they have. So that's the segment which will really boost on a Make in India initiative. At the same point of time, when government is raising duties on the CBU units, they are trying to reduce duties on a lot of SKD formats or the CKD formats. That's where the focus is. And in terms of the capital goods category, there are around 35 to 38 products on which the import duties have been completely slashed, which will see more of its light. Like if we take an example of electric vehicle and those categories, their duty has been brought down to 10 to 15%. So that will really boost on that initiative. So one way to look at that is that Make in India initiative will get a lot of support. That will generate more of employment. That will give boost to the local economy. That will give boost to the knowledge transfer. So a lot of these avenues, when are being executed on ground, will bring the real picture, will bring the real execution to the big and the new India, what is that we all are looking at. And that is where even digitization plays the most important role, that how well we are integrated, how well the GEM process work, how well it becomes governance, how well the monies are going to the last mile, and even the farmer from that community is standing tall, and the worker with the skilled laborer is standing tall in that factory where he is working and contributing towards the growth of Make in India initiative.
Sure.
So it's a good platform for all.
Right. Yes.
Another thing, Frank, which will happen because of this money transfer happening directly into farmers' account is that if you see that last year or so, 9 months or so, the rural sales have been dipping for most companies, both FMCG companies, consumer durable companies, and even for the two-wheelers. Now, this was alarming because this is a very large chunk of the economy. It generates jobs. It is a multiplier effect on the economy. Now, when this additional 2,000 rupees lands into a family or a farmer's account, and combined in a family, if there are 3 or 4 people who are beneficiaries of this, it will ultimately add up to consumption expenditure. So, consumption engine, which was flagging because of the farm distress, would start running again, and that has its own salubrious effect on the overall economy. So,
Right.
in a sense that the government is trying to kind of kickstart the rural consumption engine, and that hopefully would have a growth impact, and that finally translate into higher revenues, more jobs, more employment, and so on and so forth.
Sure, sure. Okay. Now I would like to move on to taxation, of course, because that was the third big takeaway really as far as the interim budget is concerned. You know, as soon as the budget speech was concluded, Dr. Pullarao, everyone in office and outside seemed to have been talking about individual taxes and what has been delivered on that front.
See, the slabs have not changed.
Yeah.
And I was told you can't change the slabs because it's not a full budget, so he gave it in the form of rebate.
Rebate.
So to be very frank, the people who benefited is those who are up to 5 lakhs. And those others got some other concessions, middle classes got a lot of concessions. Then the way you pay taxes, how taxes are collected also, she has brought a lot of changes, lot of assurances that in one day I think they are supposed to give you a refund. So I think that's also a very important aspect. Not only how much you're paying, but how is it being collected and how are your accounts being settled? So I think if he can do that, it's a very challenging thing. It would be as well as giving us a good benefit of a higher slab. You know, slab is not possible because of certain jurisdictional problems, but he has done what he could with whatever little was available.
Little elbow room that was available.
And whatever little was available, he did it. I have to congratulate him on his craftsmanship, that he touched everything. And of course, being such a good craftsmanship, he made it seem more than it was also, some of these things. But he did a very good job. And usually, as I said, we discussed, the disappointment is not there. People feel, okay, something he has tried. So I think the taxation part, our esteemed panelists may have another view on it, but I think he has done a good job.
Interesting thing, Frank, here is that, you know, Piyush Goyal is a chartered accountant. So he understands the intricacies of the direct tax clearly. And most chartered accountants basically earn their spurs on helping their customers save money through, you know. So he understood that, you know, it is a section 87(1)(a) which could be tweaked, and which is where the rebate exists. So instead of tinkering with the slabs, which could have been criticized because it is after all an interim budget and you're not supposed to tinker too much with the tax rates or tax slabs. The only time that, you know, if you remember Chidambaram's time when he had reduced the taxes on SUV, he had come in a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
And if you remember, even before that, Pranab Mukherjee's last budget 2009, he had again carried forward that excise tax subvention for automobiles, and he was very harshly criticized. He said that why couldn't you wait for the next government to come in? So, but this, I mean, it's remarkable that he has managed to change, pass on benefits of taxation without fundamentally altering the tax rate. He has tinkled or almost, you know, very feather touch into the sections, which enables people with the income less than 5 lakh, and I was given to believe that there are 3 crore 40 lakh taxpayers who will benefit from this, which is almost 60% of the total taxpayers in the country. So the maximum chunk of taxpayers actually come into this category. So he's passed on that benefit. And remember, this is the category which is the voting class.
Sure.
It is not the high and the rich and the mighty who go out in the sun and, you know, vote. It is this category of people who are vociferous, who drive the narrative, who are sitting in the cities, who are middle class, and they're salaried, and they're the one who feel the pain of you know, the surroundings. So he's given them the needful. The other 2 things which I think most people have missed is that he's also given a benefit via the individual to the housing sector. I mean, you know, allowing you capital tax rollover,
yeah,
and allowing the same taxpayer to buy a second house, giving you a rental rollover for a year to the real estate company, and also raising it from I think he raised it by almost 60 or 80,000 rupees, the interest, the rental income, this thing.
Yeah, it's
So
2,40,000 now,
yeah,
from 1
1
lakh
lakh 80 to 60,000.
60,000, yeah.
60,000 he raised it. So these are all going to benefit you in taxation, because I mean, like, he's also raised the interest you earn on small saving, which is huge, because small
Sure.
saving is what drives India, and that is where all pensioners, you know, savings reside. So he's raised it.
Standard deduction also has gone up.
Yeah,
That's gone up.
So all these things, I think, combined together, without touching the tax rate, he's passed on these benefits.
Sure. All right. You know, Manu, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, he called it, you know, a budget for everyone.
Everyone.
Nothing for India Inc. to complain about as well. You know, corporate tax remains as it is.
No, see, the benefit is it's getting percolated to all the categories, and everyone, the maximum community which is driving the ecosystem, they are working class, they are moving on to that ecosystem, they are getting benefited. So that's where it has been positioned that there are major takeaways, as he even pointed out, in terms of the housing sector, in terms of the working, in terms of the MSEs, MSMEs, and in terms of the agriculture. So all the taxation components are being touched upon from an interim budget perspective, and there is something to look up to. And then what gets challenged or gets executed is that how it gets finally rolled out into the market, how the banks lend it out to the community, how the community takes a benefit out of it, and people start feeling that yes, the country is changing, We are heading towards a new India. So a lot of transformation is happening,
Right.
and it gets executed, and people start believing in that transformation instead of just shuttling the train at one shot. It's like slow and steady, but getting it all closed so that we can control and grow overall better in a digitized India.
Absolutely. All right. Those were the three big takeaways then as far as the interim budget is concerned. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us and taking us through those three big takeaways. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Stay tuned. Our coverage will continue.